Well, good morning and welcome to today's morning keynote address. I am Mayor Lauren McLean, and it's my honor to introduce today a friend and trailblazing Idahoan who has certainly made an impact on my life and the lives of countless others here in Boise and in Idaho. Cherie Buckner-Webb is a community treasure who has worked her entire career to improve the state and inspire the next generation of leaders. Back in August, we as a city named our newest downtown park for Cherie, and the unique community gathering space is such a wonderful testament to her life and her legacy in our city. Cherie is a human rights advocate who fights fiercely for the underrepresented in our community and state. And as the first Black person elected to the Idaho legislature, she paved the way for Idahoans of all backgrounds to serve our state. Cherie has worked tirelessly to create the Idaho Black History Museum in the historic St. Paul Baptist Church, her great-grandfather's former church. It's now located in Julia Davis Park. Cherie's also served on the boards of a variety of local nonprofits and organizations, including the Women and Children's Alliance, the Idaho Human Rights Education Center, and our very own Andrus Center for Public Policy here at Boise State. The awards and honors she's received are more than I can name here, but it's truly a gift to know her, to learn from her, and to be inspired by her. And I'm glad Cherie Buckner-Webb Park in downtown Boise will continue to be a place for people of all ages, races, and backgrounds to gather and learn about her incredible commitment to each of us. Without further delay, I'd like to welcome my friend Cherie Buckner-Webb to the stage. Her address is live, and we encourage you to type questions into the Q&A section to the right of your screen during her presentation. Now, not all questions will be addressed, but we will meaningfully put forward at the end of her address and in consideration of our time constraints. Take it away, Cherie. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be with you this morning. It's exhilarating to be in this assembly of powerful, purposeful, passionate women and their men friends who accompanied them today. Committed to making a difference in our communities, workplaces, and the world. Women committed to personal growth, development, connection. That's what we're here about today. Nothing feeds my spirit like being in the midst of the sisterhood. We stand at the precipice of a new world, a new way of being, I dare say, that this critical time, perhaps more than ever in our lives or in the world, our world is in great need of the sensibilities, the talent, and the leadership of women. I come before you today on behalf of those generations of courageous women from every walk of life, those who made a way for you, those who toiled, struggled, and often without acknowledgement stood for the greater good. And I proudly stand before you to encourage, to support, and to wrap my arms around you, each and every woman present today at this monumental gathering, who will endow the future for generations to come. I honor you for making preparation for the great work before you. I also honor your mature sisters, of which I am one. Know that we are not obsolete. We hold historical knowledge, experience, and common sense that will be invaluable to you as you make your way through the world. Tap into relationship with the seasoned sisters. It will serve you well. Say yes. A little of my background. I'm an African-American woman, surprise, fifth-generation Idahoan, retired state senator, a multidisciplined corporate warrior, unrelentant, unrepentant instigator and agitator, committed volunteer, a social worker, a coach, a speaker, a singer, a small business owner, a wife, a proud grandmother, and ain't I just a woman? All right. And I wouldn't take nothing for my journey, and yet I still have much work to do. Generations of women instilled in me consistent messages about women's work. Comments like, take heed the wisdom of womenfolk. Women are powerful beyond measure. My grandmother, Pearl Johnson, who did cleaning for other people's houses and businesses, said, a charge to keep have I, God to glorify. My Aunt Ellen taught me to always keep a song on my lips. And that song was, Lord, don't move that mountain. Just give me the strength to climb. Please don't move that stumbling block. She told me to go to work. Just keep me all around it. My mother, Dorothy Buckner, charged me to leave a legacy. Women from every walk of life making a way out of no way for a brighter future. I grew up believing in possibilities. I seldom felt limited or less than being female and or Black, or both. Quite the contrary. Those factors provided me motivation, inspiration, and determination. I have been the only one in many environments for much of my life. I grew up in Idaho. Any indecisiveness or efforts to skirt or avoid a situation were met with a litany of standard replies from the women who surrounded, undergirded, and supported me. They would say, if not you, then who? Why not you? Someone has to kick that door down. Change the narrative, Cherie. Revise the vernacular, break the barrier, and my mom's favorite, disturb the peace. Being the only can be a blessing and a curse. When you're very good, people notice. And when you aren't so good, folks notice. I salute the numerous firsts in the audience today. I found Maya Angelou at an early age. She too spoke truth and power to me. I continue to take her words with me everywhere. One of my favorites is, you may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. Tap the source and liberate your power. How is power manifested for me? When I think I can't move another further, then something takes a hold. A power surge happens, and I'm able to do things I never imagined on my own. I'm tapping into the source and connecting to the power. And that power changes from time to time. Evidence of power manifested: desire to achieve, desire to make a difference, desire to touch and positively impact others, to live to the purpose for which I am called. The sources of power are many, some obvious, others not. Education, opportunity, family, cultural traditions, faith, fear, laughter, women folks, men folks, mentors. Any of these can send me straight to the source and connect me up. When I ask men the question, what is power, I often get answers like might, money, dominance. Notice the voice change. Women tend to see things a little differently. They say things like an old song with new voices or with many voices. The harmonies, intonation, interpretation, and phrasing ever changing, but the music is solid, powerful, melodious, and engaging. Bright, capable, talented women are not limited to seeing things the way they are, but rather empowered to see things the way they might be. What do women bring to the paper? Well, what do women bring to power? What do they bring to the party? Collaboration, influence, knowledge, expertise, the list is long. The desire to make it happen, strength, vision, vitality, power to choose, power to act, courage, inspiration, innovation, holistic approach to work with emphasis on harmony and unity and long-term impact. Womanness, both sides of a woman's brain communicate regularly. You got that. Openness, unique sensibilities, mediation, meditation, synergy, the desire to make the journey together. I encourage you to tap the source and liberate your power. Discover your gifts. Find your power. Power is not a dirty word. Take inventory of your strengths and weaknesses. What are your natural endowments? Conciliation, boldness, conflict resolution, youth, maturity, stamina, discernment. Continue to question, investigate, and stretch yourself. Try on some things from time to time. And in doing so, you still need to be realistic. If you are tone deaf, your inspiration or aspiration to be a diva with the Met may be problematic. Reconsider that job as a tightrope walker if you are scared to death of heights. Tune into the spirit. Lois Rabney, author of Women of a Generous Spirit, speaks to the importance of touching others with life-giving love. Love's not obsolete. Love is life-giving. Love is necessary. Love is empowering. Love is invaluable. Ours is a power-seeking society. We're not patient. We're full of shoulds and oughts and whens and wheres. We often forget that we will wear out or burn out if we don't take care of ourselves. We must strive to pour out that which is within us without being depleted or drained. Our biological selves change. And again, it is important to take inventory, evaluate, and reevaluate on an ongoing basis. We must. And sometimes women folk forget. While we're busy taking care of others, we forget to take care of ourselves. It is that power source that makes change possible and happiness obtainable. We work to find power and success, but we must also seek the source that gives us happiness, that gives us peace, that gives us wholeness. Ask the important questions. How am I spending my energies? Am I working toward my goal? Have I identified my goal? Where do I want to go? And maybe I have many goals, and maybe they're sequential, and maybe they'll happen over time. I don't seem to tire of setting new goals and in trying to best them as I go forward. Don't get stuck. Look at the big picture. Take care of your whole self, mind, body, and spirit. And as you endow the future, give attention to 8 critical leadership skills, because that's what we are talking about today, leadership. One is courage. Know the principles most dear to you. Stand by them. Choose to function in spite of fear, the risk involved, and your own discomfort. Be aware of those things. Know that and be willing to admit, I don't know. We can learn a lot when we speak the truth and shame the devil. Be able to take risks, and risks can be hard in certain environments. Speaking your truth and acting to create change. Understand what your guiding principles are. Integrate your head and heart. Value both head and heart. Intelligence is an important source of leadership strength, but you must balance intellect with emotional maturity and the ability to emphasize, empathize, and connect with others. And know your blind spots. It's an amazing tool. Listening. You know, we spend so much time preparing what we're going to say next. Sometimes we seldom listen with power and purpose. Listen fully. Accept that others' points of view, not necessarily mine, may have validity. Note how to acknowledge others' way of thinking. Step out of debate mode automatically when the goal is to increase understanding. And number 4 is to balance key paradoxes, challenge and support, group and individual, difference and sameness. I'm responsible and not my fault. Recognize that some of my leadership challenges aren't problems to solve, but just ongoing paradoxes to manage and to balance. Leveraging ambiguity and turbulence. I don't know if that's a challenge for any of you, but sometimes we seem to like definite answers, definitive answers. It's a yes or a no, it's a right or a wrong, but strive to be open to those ambiguities and the turbulence. Move within it, not try to run from it. Manage difficult conversations. That's that interaction with others. Initiate, engage in direct, honest, and timely conversations without blame in order to maximize partnerships and realize success. That's a heady calling. It's hard work because sometimes I just know I'm right and I need to tell you I'm right and I want you to hear how right I am. But if I could step back for just a moment and hear others and engage fully, the opportunities are great. Check myself and choose carefully when I give clear feedback and when I share my own perspective. Know the difference. Know when to do which. Don't collude with my own stereotypes about how others should act, should and ought to be, where they're coming from. And if I don't know where they're coming from, I need to ask the question. The 7th is seeing and thinking systemically. Understand that I am parts of many different identity groups. And the way I relate to you as an individual is also to one with many identity groups. Know that culture is created in part by shared assumptions embedded in groups, but automatically we don't hold the same assumptions. So we have to have that conversation yet again to come to some bottom line where we can have a conversation. Continually seek to understand and interpret these dynamics in order to create a more equitable and just environment. And finally, to be an agent of change. An agent of change is not only about changing for change's sake, but for to leave a legacy, to improve what has been. I know how to respond to resistance to change and how to use myself as a leader to effectively support complex organizational, familial, interactional changes, educational changes. Woo-hoo! Yes, how do I do that? Demonstrate how to create inclusion, ownership, and commitment while implementing change. And if your lives mirror mine, there are a cadre of women who helped shape and mold the person you are today, each with counsel for you, sometimes contradictory counsel. In talking with a wide range of women across the spectrum to understand lessons, legacies, admonitions, traditions they got from the women in their lives, their answers were also similar. They fall in about 3 or 4 categories. The women in their lives left a legacy of faith, of service, of power, and timeless treasures. They all shared the importance of appreciating, honoring, and acknowledging and valuing those gifts. Legacy was defined by every respondent as the responsibility we have to honor the sacrifices of those who made a way for others and for future generations. In order to leave a legacy, we must re-energize ourselves, empower others, and radiate purpose. People read your body language. They hear your words. You can give the right words, but they're reading you. Radiate. That means demonstrate. Your body language, the words, the way you interact should radiate purpose. We are charged to explore the legacies of our personhood, as we all are indeed in a place that we have a charge to keep. Include some impactful implements in your toolkit: inspiration, intuition, and innovation as you consider your legacy. Everybody knows what those 3 are, but I'm going to just kind of highlight a couple of things. Inspiration, that sudden feeling of enthusiasm that stimulates action, creativity, and ideas. Isn't it great when you just suddenly hit with something? I've got to do this. I've got work to do, and I've got to talk to Sally and to Sam and to George and to see if they can coalesce with me and see if they buy into my vision and if we can do something together. The act of influencing or suggesting opinions. Stimulate the mind and or emotions to a high level or feeling of activity. The powerful action of moving in the intellectual or emotional realm. Intuition. Some call it mother wit or a sixth sense. I was bringing a presentation to a group of pilots, and everybody kept saying, "Oh, intuition, that's a woman's thing. Well, women," and I'm trying to think what you call him. The general at that air base said, "Hey, hold on just a minute. Let me tell you a little bit about intuition. We go to a lot of training when we're learning to go into combat, particularly on aircraft. We practice, but in the moment, in combat, it's our intuition that leads us to make those changes that we need to make to go into combat. We don't have time to think, now let's see, A does this to B to E to C. Intuition is not a woman's thing only. Intuition is an invaluable intuitive diagnostic that we can use. Men and women can tap that tool. And innovation. This term refers to a new way of doing a thing. It may be incremental, radical, or revolutionary changes in thinking, in products, in processes, in ways of relating. It's about leveraging and reworking, and it requires knowledge of the former to make improvements for the new. The goal is positive change, often of necessity for women who are traditionally male-dominated environments. Positive change. How do you work that innovation and remain credible, valuable, and heard? Utilize the privileges that are afforded to you and lift your voice. The opportunities are endless. Do your heart, head, and heart and spirit work, all those. Eliminate violence against women by opening your mouth and speaking your truth. Bring hope to the hopeless. Create space for the voices of the many. Leave a legacy. Tell the stories. Make the history of struggles and accomplishments real for the next generation. The opportunities are endless. And while you're busy doing, I'm a witness you can't do it all at once. Pay mind to your own life. I said it yes again. Your health and your wholeness. A bleeding heart is of no help to anybody if it bleeds to death. That's from Cherie Buckner. While you're honoring the past and celebrating the present, suspend judgment. Lighten up on each other. Lighten up. Recharge, reevaluate, revive, and renew. Be unflinching and uncompromising in truth-telling. Share and encourage copious amounts of truth-telling. Endow the future. Interrupt stereotypes. What the devil? I wondered this all my whole life, and I was always offended by this term. What the devil is a cat fight? And I'm sorry, I have to interrupt somebody every time I hear cat fight. What? What? That's one of those stereotypes we need to eliminate. Mentor other women. Share your successes. Relationship, that's where the magic happens. Relationships are key, and we must engage authentically, know ourselves, and share ourselves, and connect with others. We must renew and be congruent. I have 7 ups. They're my very own. I wrote them myself. I own them. If you use them, give me credit. The first is stand up. They're the rules of engagement. Commit to making yours an environment where people can thrive and move about congruently. Ensure that yours is a welcoming, safe environment for all people. Be loyal to yourself, to the mission, the team, to the community. Show up fully. Be there, attending, dependably, participating, and representing. Number 3, speak up. Find your voice. Use it effectively. Speak plainly and as concisely as possible. And from time to time, and this is a challenge for me from time to time, I need to shut up. Anybody else? Shut up. Know when to be still and listen, and know that confidentiality is critical. You are known by the confidences you keep. Number 5 is to make up. Reconciliation will be necessary. There are no perfect relationships among human beings. Demonstrate compassion, as humanity cannot survive without it. Number 6 is to re-up. We're almost to 7. Periodically recommit, review the purpose, the goals, the objectives, seek clarity, and obtain good counsel as needed. Number 7, very important, look up. Find that power greater than yourself. Seek strength and direction. So the charge today is to learn the lessons, to celebrate life, and to speak the truth. Fulfill your promise. This is a lot of stuff. Short phrases, but important stuff. Stay the course. Move forward and leave a legacy. And then when you've tapped the source and released the power, embrace it. Be not afraid of it. Model it, enhance it, celebrate it, share it. You too can take purposeful action to leave a legacy that is meaningful and precious for you. Or you can do nothing, and you'll still leave a legacy. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. This is from Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be? There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that others won't feel insecure around you. As we let our own light shine, we consciously give others permission to do the same. We are liberated from our own fear. Our presence automatically liberates others. As you leave yourself, and as you leave this place, not as you leave yourself, stay together, you know what I'm saying? Treat yourself and others with compassion. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I'm excited. Thank you so much for those remarks. I think that as questions start to trickle in, and I'm sure they will, I'd love to start with a question relatively close to where you ended off. You talked about the importance of sharing and celebrating our power. I'm curious if that's come naturally to you, or if that's something that you've had to figure out along the way. I couldn't agree with you more, that we tend to be more afraid of our power and the light we stand to spread than the opposite. So I find that really celebrating and sharing the power can be challenging. Can you talk a little bit about whether that came naturally to you or you've had to figure it out?
Well, I will tell you, it's a combination of both. I have been surrounded by amazing women from every walk of life, not only my family, but women in the public eye, women in private life, women in the church. And one of the things that I learned about women, if you get a bunch of women together, they'll tell you about power. They'll talk about it, but seldom do women talk about power in the context of men and women. They tend to be reticent. This is in an earlier age, because you know I'm just about to hit that big 7-0, so it was a while ago. Some of you all already got this down. But I'm saying that it was less likely that women were talking about such words as power because it was a negative word. But more and more, when they were alone, they were talking about what your power looks like, how to own it, how to retain it, how to share it. So they brought it to me, and then they said, now do your work, girl. And they watched, and they chided, and they encouraged. So it's a combination of both.
I love it. Thank you. Looking at your body of work, what stands out for you as the thing that maybe impacted the greatest number of people? I figure that's a hard one for you since there's lots.
You know, whatever work or whatever endeavor I'm involved in at the time seems to be the absolute most important thing to me. And the beauty of the lives we live now, we have the opportunity to engage in many areas of importance to us. I can't say that there's one more than other. I have a real heart for children, an amazing heart for women, for families, for those that have been abused, for those that have been neglected. There's all kinds of things. I've served on so many boards and been grateful to do that. But if we can make incremental change in 1,000 areas, good for us. And that's kind of been my philosophy. If I can be just a little bit of help as we're moving along the way, I'm grateful.
I love it. Thank you. You talked about the fact that we are not part of a patient culture. And I can, any advice for us on how to cultivate patience and what modeling patience might look like?
I am such a work in progress. Do you hear me? Patience is not my long suit. Even my kids and my granddaughter gives me a bad time about being patient. Now I see her 10 years old modeling a lot of what her grandmother does. Said, let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Get it done. But patience is a skill set that's invaluable because we'll hear more, do more, learn more, create more relationship if we slow our roll just a little bit so that we can take time and deeply interact and deeply hear what's going on and to hear those messages that we might miss in our hurriedness. So I work on it every day. I'll be trying to say, okay, I'm about ready to go to leave this world. Are we ready yet? I mean, I know that's going to be me, but I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress.
I love it. I love it. This question might feel related. You talked about the necessity of reconciliation along the way. Any best practices you can share with us about when you realize it's time to reconcile? How do you go about that?
I think there are very few times that reconciliation isn't tantamount to our future and going forward. I don't have to love everything you do. I love my husband dearly, but I don't like everything he does. You know what I mean? I love my children. I gave them life, and I'm still surprised at some of the stuff they do. But I would miss so much with my colleagues, the people I work with, the people I volunteer with, if I didn't stay open to hear what you have to say. Because there's a richness in knowing people deeply. And in knowing you better, I'll know more about me. So reconciliation is, and I thank goodness that I'm connected to a higher power, because sometimes when I'm feeling so stubborn, I have to get on my knees a little bit and pray a little bit, say, do you really want me to do this now? Are you sure you want? I mean, that's terrible to say, but thank God there's a power higher than myself that directs me to do so.
Thank you. You talked about mind, body, and spirit throughout your remarks in a number of different ways. I appreciate you talking about looking up as a way to recharge, draw. I think what you're talking about is drawing from something much bigger than yourself.
Yes.
I know we have some questions in the audience about how you maintain your energy and how you restore yourself. I think you might have touched on that. So I'll throw another question in the ring and let you comment on both.
Okay.
mind, body, and spirit. In my workplace experience, it's hard to make space for all three of those things. How do we do that?
Well, I would say that the workspace is not the only place in which we occupy. And if you expect to get everything out of your workspace, you're going to be upset every day. So you may have to do some of that elsewhere. You may have to get ready before you go to work. You may have to recharge when you get home. Music is a real wonderful thing for me. I put certain music on when I know I'm going to have a rough day at the office. It's crazy. I'll put somebody that's rocking, that's getting me ready. Sometimes when I'm feeling pensive or insecure, there's a different music that I hear. Sometimes it's something that I'll read. Sometimes it's a friend that I'll call that I may not have even talked to. One of the things I love about women folks, you can not talk to each other even for years, and then you know that person with whom you can make connection, and you make that phone call and you make a touch. So getting in touch, and mind, body, and spirit, whatever it takes for you, whether it's prayer or meditation. Clearly exercise is not on the top of my list, but I'm working at it, okay? Whatever that is, I got an amen here, that we do what we need to do to get us where we need to be. But be mindful that we do have to work. It isn't just magic. We have to put some skin in the game.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Thank you. Here's a good question. What advice would you give to the person who knows what they want to accomplish, but has no idea how to get started?
Boy, well, if I know what I want to accomplish, I need to talk to some folks. I need to talk to some folks that are in the arena. I need to talk to some folks that may be contrarians. I maybe need to talk to a girlfriend, an elder. I don't care who it is. You need to have a conversation, because you don't have the full picture. You only have the picture that you want. You must have conversations. You must do your research. You must do your homework, because that great idea may have some great holes in it. And it might be a really good idea, but you may miss the mark because you haven't consulted with others.
Love that. Thank you. Another great question. Love these questions. No surprise we've got
These are
lots.
women. What?
How do you, yeah, love it. How do you maintain your resilience with so many challenges? What tips can you provide on how you prefer to be supported, or how you support others when resilience is waning?
I am a raging extrovert most of the time, but I found as I mature, there are times that I need to be still and listen. To be still and listen. And some of those lessons have come from my sons, and some of them have come from loss. From loss of family, friends. And sometimes we're so busy doing that we don't stop, that we aren't still to hear what is meant for us. And I have learned in the last number of years that that is critical, to be still and listen, all alone by myself, whether it's with a book or a music or a friend, but to be still and listen and get in touch with what is going on in there. Because I can stay so busy, I don't hear it. I can keep on running and keep on running, but I need to slow down. And we know in leadership, one of the things that we ask of very congruent and capable leaders is, how much have you listened? It's great for you to be the guide and to have the impetus for change, but you need to hear other thoughts and opinions about what will be needed to get the end result. Because sometimes there's so many incremental steps we have to take. We have to be still and listen to ourselves and others.
Love it. Thank you. You talked about dropping debate mode in favor of increasing understanding. And I think that relates nicely to what you're saying about the power to actually be still and find out.
It's a challenge for me too.
Yeah. Any thoughts on how not to be underestimated in your stillness when we're talking about actually dropping the debate in favor of deep understanding? Have you found that positions you to have to reassert your power later, or does it just build the bridge you need?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes that bridge will be built down the road. It might not be settled today, it'll be settled lately. One of the things the legislature taught me in a really big way is what seems the truth today may not be the truth tomorrow. And the truth is only as much as folks have shared their perspectives. Sometimes we get incremental part of the truth. And to jump to conclusions can be very detrimental. So I've learned in that, and being married and being a mother and everything we do, and in the work life, and when you're making a decision whether you're going to go for that next job. Well, I'm really happy right here and I'm making fine money and I'm making a difference, but that next job is a little interesting, is a little, and maybe it's good for me. Yeah, you have to get the information. The information. It's incredible.
Awesome. Okay. We have some questions that all kind of fall into the broader category of polarization, I think. You spent a lot of years working to make positive changes in an environment where you were part of the significant minority. How did you do it?
Well, coalescing is so important. And listen, we can be on different sides of the spectrum, but we can find areas of intersection that we can agree upon, that we can work together. And the thing is so important not to get so narrow in your focus that you can't hear other perspectives. And in order to make significant change, you cannot do it by yourself. When we're talking about leaving a legacy or endowing the future, it takes the many. There's not a single person that can do it, not one. We have to coalesce. So the importance there is being able and willing, because sometimes it's hard to hear another perspective and another perspective and yet another perspective, and then come to some kind of hopeful agreement where we can go forward together. Because if I waited to do everything on my own, I'd be hanging out there all by myself often.
Yeah. This might lead to a little recap of what you've just shared, but this next question is awesome. How has being the only one in many environments impacted your leadership skills?
I think it's sharpened them, it's honed them, it's taught me. I mean, I have to ask questions a lot. I met a gentleman 2 days ago that was saying, so how in heaven's name did you get elected to the legislature? There's only less than 1% of the population in Idaho there's African American. I said, well, clearly I didn't depend on African Americans to get me elected. You hear what I'm saying? So I have to have establish relationship, rapport, get off my seat and on my feet, and extend myself to others, not to wait for others to come to me, but for me to go to them and to ask the questions and to listen to the answers, and then to go back again if you need to ask for clarity. Those are the things, that relationship, that interaction, that's absolutely incredible. I keep saying incredible, but it's necessary.
Yeah. I hear you describing a lot of patient back and forth in consensus building. I have a couple questions here about best practices in consensus building where you're encountering a lot of pushback. Am I hearing you right that I hear you describing a dialogue that isn't complete in one transaction, a dialogue full of listening.
Not just listening, but also speaking your truth. But listening more than speaking in your initial interaction, particularly if you know someone's perspective is anathema to yours. The more I understand about where you are, the better opportunity I have to formulate my perspective to bring to you that it will be palatable to you. So copious amounts of listening and is just the top thing for me. And I mean, I want to talk all the time, but that listening piece is absolutely, I think, foundational to starting a dialogue.
Thanks. Here's a fun change of pace here, coming from a working mama, self-described working mama in our Q&A. She says, I often feel like I have to advocate for other working moms. Do you have any advice or experience for how to increase awareness of working parent life and make change in society?
Well, I feel like we're in this together. Working moms have a heavy road to hoe. So many working moms are professional moms and professional in other environments, and they're moms and their wives or their daughters or their granddaughters, and have so many dual responsibilities, no more than dual, great numbers of responsibilities. I feel the necessity, and no matter, even in the legislature and what legislation I would bring, I try to think, what is the impact? And if you're listening to the news lately, you hear about women who are recently leaving the workforce because it's not possible to do justice to either one. So bless her for being an advocate for other moms. She can't take on the weight of the world and do it in every day and every way, but bless her for the work she's doing in advocating for other mothers who are also meeting great challenges right now.
Thank you. Yeah, that resonates for sure. This one's interesting. How do we use our power when, as you stated, power is a bit of a dirty word?
Well, it used to be a dirty word for me, but it's not so much a dirty word now. And I think that it's a stereotype type that was attributed to women because it wasn't feminine. Well, power is real feminine to me, and winning is even more feminine to me. Maybe the methodologies are different at which we go after the power, and the way we do it. We can hold power without putting one down, but rather lifting one up. Power is not a dirty word, and I encourage women folk to hold it and cherish it and own it and not be ashamed of being a powerful force in this world. It's always been that way. We just haven't called it out. I mean, you think about the woman that was coming across the prairie with her husband, and she was usually walking and he was on a horse. You know, she stopped in the corner, had a baby, birthed the baby, swaddled the baby, got back on the trail and kept going. Tell me that wasn't a powerful woman.
Wouldn't dream of it. Okay. Let's see, I had an awesome question here. Do you have any advice for young women, early 20s, who want to make a difference in the world but don't know how? It can sometimes feel that we aren't taken seriously because we're young women.
Wow. Well, one of the things that's encouraging is that young women bring a whole new view of the world because their experience is so much different than generations before them. They are invaluable in determining who we will be in the future. I say to you, don't give up. Grab a couple of maybe seasoned folks that are a little bit older than you, seek their good counsel, seek them coming alongside you. Don't give up your power necessarily, but bring others with you. That's how you coalition build coalitions, and don't give up your work. Just bring others into the party that also have access to entrees that you may not, or access to other folks, and then together you can do it. It's still your endeavor, but bring along others that can help you make it a reality.
Maybe this is a good time to ask you about mentorship. Have you sought out your own mentorship along the way?
Often, in lots of different endeavors, from being a mother to being a legislator. I worked in a sawmill. For a long time. There are real stereotypic language that exists in a sawmill about Black folks, and there were no Black folks in the sawmills in which I worked. The first day I was on the job, I learned some things. Yeah. Let me go back to the question because I got distracted for a minute there. So it's funny, but I won't share it in this environment. What was your question again?
The question was about seeking out mentorship.
Absolutely, unequivocally.
Yeah.
From men and women, young and old, all kinds of environments. And don't and I think one of the things that's important, if you're going to work in aviation, don't think that you can only get mentorship from somebody that works in aviation. Skill sets of leadership, of tenacity, of all kinds of things are available through other endeavors. People that you know that have been successful, who are earnest and willing to share information, can be invaluable to you. Don't limit yourself to the area of endeavor that you're going to get mentorship, support, encouragement, suggestions, critiques. Go to those who are willing and that you admire and respect what they have to say.
Thank you. I feel that you've addressed this some, but I'm sure it's worth asking again. Where do you get your energy to continually start over? This person writes, I get exhausted from trying so much.
Oh, I'm with you. I get exhausted too. And yet I think one of the things that's one of my deficits, is not one of my strengths, is that I feel like I got to be doing something. And if I'm sitting too long and I'm idle, I get a little antsy about it. So I'm working at slowing my roll just a little bit and enjoying the world and spending more time with the people I love and care about. But yeah, I think some of us are just inevitably folks that continue to go, but it is equally as important to go and go and go. And it's equally as important to take time to relax, renew, revive, and interact with people that we care about. So I'm not real good at that yet, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Thank you. How, when you know it's time to find a way to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, do you have best practices for really getting in that space, learning something about somebody else's experience?
I think you have to come with the mindset and the desire to hear it. And sometimes it can be tedious because everybody doesn't communicate the way that I do or you do. But it has to be an earnest and genuine desire to learn. And I swear each and every time that I've done just that, I have been rewarded richly. And it has added to my skill set, it has added to my understanding, it's added to my humanity.
Thank you. More great questions rolling in. Can you give an example of someone who challenged your power in the legislature and how you handled it?
Ooh-wee. Lots of people challenged my power. I mean, when I tried to be a triple threat minority, I did that in the legislature, the only Black, a Democrat in the North End, all those kinds of things. And there are a lot of things that happen that are structural, that mean that part of the nature of that organization is challenge, right? It's important. A lot of times I have to just not take it personally. I have to think about the organization and what the organizational dynamic is and what we have to do to accomplish what we need to do. And not take every single thing as a personal slight, but rather understand there are operational norms within organizations, whether it's in the legislature or whether it's in business or whether it's in my coaching practice or my small business. The nature of human beings is to question and to challenge and to ask, and we don't have to personalize all those, but rather to step back, answer the question, and try to take it at face value and answer it earnestly and honestly.
Awesome, thank you. Do you have advice for young professionals who deal with other women in their workplace who do not show support for women, especially when these other women hold positions of power?
It breaks my heart when that happens. But I think one of the things that we have to understand too, that's part of a legacy that many young women have gotten. I mean, we have been taught for a period of time, years and years ago, to compete, always compete. She's cuter, she's shorter, she's skinnier, she's got high heels, she doesn't have high heels, she's got so-and-so. It was compete rather than to coalesce, to work together. And I think this generation and the last couple of generations have been really great at getting rid of that kind of BS. I mean, that kind of philosophy. It is so important that we work together, not against each other. And I give props to this generation and those in the recent past that have overcome that. Not that it hasn't happened for a million years, that many have learned to coalesce, but it's absolutely critical. And we must not let organizations pit us one against the other.
Yeah, thank you. Can you speak on the difference between tolerance and acceptance?
Well, if I say to you, if you say, let's have a dinner party, and I say, great. And you say, I'd like to invite Sue and John. And I go, well, I can tolerate them coming. I guess I can tolerate it instead of, gosh, I'd love to have them come. You know when you're tolerated, and you know when you're genuinely accepted and invited in. Tolerance and acceptance. Tolerance is not a really great word. It's not a great word. I mean, let's say that the connotation and the emotion that comes with tolerance is not as welcoming as acceptance. I mean, think about that. Do you want to be tolerated or do you want to be embraced and welcomed? I don't mean that you have to love me forever, but you're open to be with me or for me. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, thank you. Part of your strength and personality seems to be fortified by your strong emotions. You talked a lot about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
What habits, tricks have you developed to keep your emotions in check at the workplace?
Well, I noticed the more mature I get, they're not as in check as they used to be. I can cry at the drop of a hat, but I've had to tell people that if you see a tear in my eye, doesn't mean I'm weak. It just means that at that moment, I'm emotional. And underlying that tear, it can be a whole lot of stuff, and it can be very powerful. Keeping emotions in check, I try to do a better job of that, and yet I don't not do a better job. I'm not as rigid about that as I was when I was young. When I was a young, upwardly mobile person in the workplace, everything I felt had to be perfect because there were few women, because there were few blacks. And now I think I'm having an opportunity to be more congruent, and challenging the status quo is comfortable for me, and I'm willing to do it. And I hope that that is part of my leaving a legacy for those that come after me, that they don't have to be this stereotypical plastic person. They can bring the wholeness of who they are to the work environment and to their lives.
Thank you for that. Hard not to say thank you for that. Okay, hope you're good with me just rolling through. I'm trying to get to as many of these questions as we can. The phrase leverage ambiguities and turbulence really spoke to me. Are you willing to expand on that thought? How have you leveraged these in your life?
When there's turbulence and ambiguity and things that make us uncomfortable, we tend to go to mad, or we run away from them and we don't face them. And they remain. They remain. Whereas if I acknowledge or even say the words, this is really confusing to me, or this is uncomfortable for me, that at least opens the opportunity for a conversation, because the person that has brought that piece to me may not have intended it that way, or they may have. But we can have a conversation, and maybe it won't be a lengthy, ad nauseum. But when I don't have a clue what you mean, but I've attributed meaning to it, I can really make some missteps. So to leverage ambiguity and turbulence, say, I'm feeling a lot of angst from you right now. Are you angry? And then usually people say, no, I'm not angry. But you could say, I'm feeling, it's not that you are angry, I'm feeling that you are angry. And then that person can take a breath and decide how they want to respond to it. That thing about conversation and dealing with each other holistically is just unbelievable. And I know it's a panacea is what I'm trying to say. And I understand about hierarchy and organizational structure that sometimes it precludes that. But I believe in my heart of hearts that people want human connection. And our organizations of work, recreation, education will be greatly enhanced if we are in relationship. You don't have to be my best friend, but relationships means having some level of understanding, of empathy, even irritation, but interacting one with the other.
Contact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. How do we tackle sexism when it stems from culture?
That's an interesting question, because I'm not quite sure how to do that. I mean, you realize in most cultures, sexism is pretty ingrained in cultures. And how do we tackle it? I think everybody has to do it in a way that works for them. But again, when you have a crew with you, you have more power than when you're out there by yourself. And sometimes that crew is one who works with you or near you. And sometimes it's that person that's back home or out in the world that you have to deal with. Because sexism is one of those isms that sexism, racism, gosh, we've got all those isms, and they still permeate our society. They aren't something that are going to be fixed by osmosis. It's going to take purposeful action. And some people aren't comfortable to do it. Not that they are pro-sexism, racism, or other isms, but it's just too uncomfortable to bring it up because it may shine a light on them that is discomforting. So slowly, with feeling, we have to work toward it. And we are making some strides, but I'd like to see them go faster, faster, faster. But they must be earnest, honest, and congruent.
Thank you. How did you remain motivated during your political career? As a federal employee, I find myself desiring to rise to a leadership position, but with the current climate, I'm needing a jolt.
I hear you. Well, sounds so corny. I always have my girls. These are grown women, okay? You get when I say my girls. I can say that because I'm a woman. Guys, don't do that. All right? Just get that clear. I have a cadre of women across the world, and I have people that I work with on a day-to-day, and I have to have those conversations. Sometimes we just have to connect with one another. I mean, sometimes I just have to be able to blow off steam or to ask those questions. How did you handle this? And is it possible? And we know that woman after woman after woman has excelled in the workplace. We're going to see a cadre of women today and tomorrow that are beyond imagination, that they are women of power, passion, purpose. They will live a legacy that will go on for generations, and we will listen. We will listen to what they've done. It has not been easy, but they've done the work. And I think that's the important thing. We have to realize that it's not easy. And there is a trade-off. I would like this higher level. And what is the cost to me? And what is the benefit to me? And am I going to go for that job and stay there forever? Or am I going to go to that job for a period, or that position for a period of time, try it on, see how I do? Then I can still make another decision. I can still make another decision. And to put my house in order before I go to that new role, because all those things that I've been taking care of right now down here in my home and in my family are still going to go on. So what do I do to prepare myself? For preparation, preparation, preparation. And then we can make decisions. If you need to try it on for a while, try it on. It doesn't mean, and I think a lot of times women say, gosh, if I don't succeed, if it's not perfect, if I don't like it, it's going to make it so difficult for women that come after me. Do what's right for you. And in doing what's right for you, it'll be right for somebody else in the future too.
That's awesome. That sounds like doing what's right for you might be a form of leadership in and of itself, is what you, yeah, thank you. Any advice for how to push through the unrealistic expectations parents set for you? Personally, my mental health has been affected as a first-generation woman at times when I feel I can't reach their goals.
I know. My mama was a strong woman. My dad was an easygoing guy. And so I would tend to not say some things to mom that I go to dad. It's a hard road to hoe. Family dynamics are a whole different thing. And I would be arrogant to suggest how you might deal with the dynamics of your family. But again, making decisions about what to say, when to say, how to say. As we reach adulthood, families still have a great deal of influence over our lives, but we can make decisions about how we will respond to the directions they give us or to their wants for us, because we have been raised to be fully functional adults. And I mean, I'm going to be a daughter forever, but still, I mean, sometimes there's a separation you have to do. I don't mean that you have to separate from your family, but you have to make decisions. I know that my sons are really good at deciding what they tell me, when they tell me, how they tell me, as opposed to whether they tell me. I mean, they're grown men, you know what I mean? And they kind of taught me that with my mom and my dad, because I used to think I had to just pour out every single thing, and then I knew I was going to get a different response than I really wanted. But as we mature, we learn different ways of navigating the waters of our lives, including our families.
Well said. Thank you. On the flip side of the earlier question about younger women finding their way, what advice do you have for women approaching seasoned sisterhood? Women who are trying to figure out next steps, Act 3.
Well, this is so funny. This is so funny. And I love the word seasoned sisterhood. I created that myself because I wasn't going to be mature or old woman or over the hill. So I thought seasoned was good. That means, you have flavor and experience and all those kinds of things. When I left the legislature after 10 years there, I mean, I've always been on a number of boards and other things. And I really went through a period of, gosh, what am I going to do now? I'm not done yet. What am I done yet? I tried on a few things. And one of the really surprising things is I took some time off. And then the funny thing that happened is I got really, really sick. And I said, is that in response that I don't know what I'm going to do next or what? And so I had to talk to myself a little bit about that. But there are so many opportunities. As we hit seasoned sisterhood, there are things that are available to us that have never been available before for women of our age and stage, and women who have accomplished and grown to such an age. We get to be standing up at the Andrus Center for Public Policy, telling other women what we do. We get to stand up here, all these beautiful young people, I go, look what I did. Why don't you do it? I mean, it's kind of funny. We get to share the wisdom that we've gotten. We get to get new wisdom from younger folks. I mean, we have opportunities. We can go exercise. We can go sit on the porch. We can go for runs, walks, whatever there are. We have opportunities. And yes, we have been socialized for years and years to be doing. That's how we're valued. But now we can spend time being, and being.
Thank you. We have parent questions today. Parenting coming up as a theme.
Don't call my
How do
kids,
you
okay?
suggest How do you suggest communicating the lack of support parents have in the workplace? At a crossroad, I'm at a crossroad between continuing to work at my current employer and parenting my child.
I mean, I was listening to NPR the other day, and that's a challenge that so many people are dealing with right now, and it breaks my heart because the workplace will suffer considerably at the loss of some of the contributions that mothers are making in the workplace. Why can't it's a hard decision, because on one hand we have financial responsibilities, we have personal responsibilities, we have goals and objectives for ourselves, we have goals and objectives for ourselves as mothers. I wish I had an easy answer for you. Be still and listen. Be still and listen. And talk to others, and take a risk if you're at that point at telling your employer, take a risk only when it's time, that here's where I am. And maybe come with a suggestion. I'd like to suggest that I work a different schedule, that I work different hours, that I work part-time, or what can you offer to me? Because I want to continue to contribute, but how can you make it possible for me? It's the and both. Let me tell you what I think, you tell me what you think. Let's see if we can come to some kind of agreement. It doesn't always work, but the unanswered question is definitely not asked. The unasked question is definitely unanswered. There you go.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Okay. How long will it take to make Idaho a purple state? And what advice do you have for moderate GOPs and Dems to counter the Idaho Freedom Foundation and misinformation about COVID in particular?
Well, I think that it's really important that I don't by any means stand here to pontificate about politics or the politics that people hold or don't hold. I don't know what the complexion of Idaho will be going forward. I know that we have to put our people first, and I know that we have to work collaboratively. This constant bickering and fighting for its own sake is not doing good service to any of us. Our educational facilities are desperately in need of us to get our act together and to prepare others for the future. We have a responsibility, and we need to grow the heck up and get serious about doing the work that we are meant to do, so that we can be that state that we're proud of, and proud of our citizens, and demonstrate to our children and young adults that this is a desirable place to live, a place where they can grow and prosper and contribute. So I don't know about that purple thing, but I'm just telling you, we got work to do.
I think I have a good follow-up question. This person asks, can you go back to communicating within the workplace when there are disrespectful, aggressive, conflicting colleagues? What advice, resources exist? Trying to turn a negative into a positive.
Well, most workplaces have rules of decorum that they expect. Unfortunately, some of them are not supported very well. But part of the reason they're not supported is because we walk in fear of outing somebody that is treating me in a disrespectful manner or doing things that are inappropriate. It's a hard row to hoe. What gives you the power to go and address that, and what are the ramifications? And so oftentimes, again, sometimes it's good to talk to somebody outside, maybe it's somebody close but not too close, but there's risk and reward. You have to make decisions of what's the best case scenario of my having this interaction or bringing this to the forefront, and what's the worst case scenario, what's going to work best for me in my future life, what's going to work best for my family. And there are times that when you have to make a decision to separate, you can negotiate a peace with that employer that no negative comments are sent forward for your next place of employment. But that's a hard place to go. Sometimes you even have to get with legal advice. It's hard. And sometimes HR is a venue to go. Not always, but I'm just saying there are steps, and you have to make a decision about what works for you and those steps to take. I wish I had a great answer.
Thank you. No, I think that's a great answer. I know we're coming to the end of our time here with a break at 10:30, but I think we maybe have time for a couple more questions. I love this one. What does supporting other women look like on a daily basis?
I think support for other women looks like the way the other women want to be supported. Everyone doesn't want to be supported in the same way. I don't want you to rush out and throw your body down for me in front of somebody to say, you're treating her badly. Or maybe I want to be your silent partner. Maybe I want you to stand with me and for me. You have to determine or ask, what does your coworker want from you, and how can you support that coworker? It's not a blanket thing to do.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you. I know that a number of people had hoped that you would recap your list, your up list.
7-Ups?
7-Ups.
Can I leave them with
and
you?
I want to give you adequate time to do that. This is a great one. Really awesome, vulnerable question. How do you tackle the feelings of not being good enough in the workplace? I struggle to feel competent in my role when there are constant changes and the duties are complex.
Wow, it's hard. You have to, again, find that way, that truth that works for you. Because the way that I do it may not, and it may be, I may do it one way today and I may have to use another way tomorrow. It depends on where I am, how I am, and if I could find the number of these pages, I'd be good. It's not one size fits all. Not one size fits all, not at all. I think I must have thrown away a page. I apologize here, but I'll offer them to you.
Those out.
I'll offer them to you.
Sure. I can promise to follow up on that one.
Thank you.
And then maybe I could drill down into this last question just a little further and say that I think there is a fine line between good, ambitious self-critique and self-doubt that's not constructive at all. Any words of wisdom on walking that line with yourself? And I understand it might just be your process, but
and self-doubt is one of those things.
You
don't choose to be self-doubting. You don't choose to be it. So don't beat yourself up about it. But if you realize that's the case, then what are you going to do about it? That's the question. First of all, stop beating the heck out of yourself. Get some help. Sometimes we even need to go get a counselor. We need to get some time to speak to somebody that's totally objective and outside the arena. And we can do that. And sometimes our employer even pay for it. Here's my 7-Ups. I'll do them really fast. I should know these by heart. Stand up, show up, speak up, shut up, make up, re-up, and look up. More information coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that's a perfect place to wrap. So appreciate this time with you.
Thank you.
We've just been privileged to have Cherie Buckner-Webb with us. We do have time for a break at this time, and then we will reconvene.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.